Hi, Loretta, and hello to our audience. I am so delighted to be back here because I was very ill. In fact, had a huge health scare the last few weeks. So thank you, Loretta, for just carrying the show and giving me the space to reflect and heal. And all I can say to our audience is that I've had the opportunity now to practice yet again every single thing we put out, because we tend to forget things, I had cancer 7 years ago, as everyone knows, and I potentially faced another cancer diagnosis now. I had a scan last week, and by the grace of God, it came back clear, but it took me back into the space of firstly understanding how all of you feel that have a really hectic diagnosis on you, or a pending diagnosis, or just real big physical health problems. It's scary. And how you work with that is really going to determine the outcome on every level, actually. And so I've had to really go very close to the wire again myself to realize that actually I got a bit out of alignment, to be honest, because we forget. Loretta, I don't know if you found that in your life. When I had cancer, I was very vigilant about my daily practices and my moment-to-moment self-awareness and watching my triggers. And then you feel good and you feel all that peace and good health. And then I think it's human nature to start getting a bit complacent and think you've got it taped.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I'm the only one, but I've got a particularly, as people have probably picked up, difficult mind state, which I've worked with very successfully for 7 years. But when I'm not on it, so to say, geez, it can cause havoc. And we keep on talking on and on, Loretta and I, and we're going to round it up today about the link between our psychological dynamics, our mind, our emotional environment, internal and external, and our bodies. And I got brought back into the depths of my own unconscious stuff, to be honest, for quite a while now. And even though I knew it, I found it very hard to dig myself out of it. So it's a bit not embarrassing to admit that, but you're probably sitting here thinking, geez, this chick's trying to help us, and now she's gone back there herself. But I think that's the very reason, we can help you, because we do our own work. Am I right, Loretta?
100%. I just want to add to that while we do have to be really vigilant, and we are going to speak about that, it's important to know that you can uncover your triggers, and you can uncover your shadow, and you can uncover your limiting beliefs. You can uncover that unconscious stuff. The fact that it's uncovered doesn't mean it's gone. It means you have more awareness of it. And that's why we tend to fall off the wagon. It is normal because keeping a routine of doing the daily practices. You don't have to do all of them, but just doing whatever it is that you've decided, like exercise. Let's just pick exercise, right? Eating healthy food and exercising. The reason why it's hard for us to just even do those things is because they're challenging. It requires discipline. And so there's a certain amount of friction about doing that stuff. And the fact that we've uncovered unconsciously why we might not want to be looking after ourselves doesn't take it away. So we're going up this sort of spiral of awareness and wellness. But that doesn't mean that our stuff doesn't come with us. And so on the one hand, we don't want to completely hate ourselves when we fall off the wagon. But we also just want to go, oh, well, this is just how it is. Well, it doesn't have to be like that. And so that's why I wake up every now and again. Sorry to interrupt you, but getting a wake up, like potentially like a health scare or something happening somewhere else in your life it's what's the word? It's like a rebalancing mechanism. It's basically like when your computer isn't working and you think, maybe I should just restart it. Maybe it just needs to restart. Yeah, sometimes we just have to restart. So it's important that we know that healing is not a destination. It's not actually even a journey. It's a process. It's an ever-evolving process of expansion and awareness, and then dropping the awareness and going, oh Lordy, I forgot about that. And then, that's what it is. And different tools are more useful for us at different times, which is why it's important that we have a toolbox. And you don't have to, because sometimes people don't want to do this because they go like, oh my goodness, if I've got to do all of this, and like it's going to consume my life. You don't have to do all of it. Different parts of your life need it at different times. And sometimes we're not aware that we need an old tool. And then something happens and we go, oh, that one. I forgot about that one. That's the one I need to take out of the box right now.
Yeah, beautifully said, Loretta. And one thing we've discussed privately is that, listen, I had the toolbox and I can help everybody else with the tools, as can Loretta. But as Loretta says, this journey is it's a journey. It's not a moment in time, and it's a multi-phase, multi-leveled process. And in fact, the more you bring up the unconscious to look at it and heal it, the more you go into it. So if you've got a particularly difficult journey in this lifetime because of your past or whatever, then when it comes up, it's going to not be so pretty. And for every human being, it's not. So a couple of reflections, and we've discussed this privately, is you can go too deep into the unconscious stuff and the shadow work, and you can get stuck there, actually. And I can say, honestly, that happened to me, but I'm glad it happened because it helps me help people even more. Because when I look back on this, has been happening for about a year, actually, and I know what triggered it, and I know what I didn't do, that if I had done, I wouldn't have got to the point where I had to face a very aggressive, fast-moving cancer again that could have taken me out in a few weeks. So just to loop back to what you said, yes, the body, it's the truth what we're saying. The body will tell you when something's not right. And symptoms are an opportunity. And the challenge is, and I was able to do this very successfully this time, is to sit with the terror and the fear of that diagnosis, especially if you only have a few weeks, and all your stuff around that, and then be able to do the practices we've already brought you and to focus on what I really want and why would I want to stay alive, and intuit into what I needed to do next. And the one thing that ended up turning everything for me, it might even have created a miracle, came directly from my intuition. And I'm not going to share that, but Loretta and I are going to go back next year, I think, to a whole episode on intuition, how to cultivate it and how to use it for your health, because it's only when, and that's where I'm very far down the path, even though I fell back into the trap. My intuition, when I choose, fires on full steam, and I know exactly what I need to do. And it doesn't always seem logical, but at the same time, I did the logical stuff. I went for the CT scan. I did the doctor.
I just want to add to that, that when you're on this journey and you've now, let's just say you've done all the things like Antoinette, right? So the reason why Antoinette could pull herself back, no matter how hard it was, is because she's been doing the things and she's done the things and she does the work, right? I think that it's completely delusional to think that when if you've got a high value on health, for example, so I'm going to use myself as an example. I've always had a high value on my health. So I've always been very particular about what I eat and how much I move and what I think, and human behavior is my thing. And I've got sick patients that I work with and blah, 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 all of that, right? The idea that I'm never going to get sick is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I haven't had Antoinette's diagnosis. But the point I'm trying to make here is that once you're on the journey, it's so easy to fall into that, oh, well, I'm doing it all right now, so nothing's ever going to go wrong again. It's not about not getting sick, because sickness and health come together as a package, all right? So it's like you've got cells that are regenerating and you've got cells that are dying. We are all busy dying as we sit here listening to this. There are parts of our bodies that are dying off, right? And if you're watching this at night, maybe there are parts of your body that are regenerating. But you know what? If it's in the day, you've got more death happening than then regeneration. That's happening tonight. Okay. So it's not about not getting sick again. It's not about not having the fear of like, oh my goodness, is my cancer come back? It's about how I think health, once you've now, sorted, when it looks like you've sorted out your problem. So Antoinette has recovered from her cancer and has been in remission for 7 years. It's not that she doesn't have the scare. It's not even that she doesn't have any kind of signs and symptoms. It's how quick is the bounce back from that. That's the indicator, I think, of your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. And so sometimes the bounce back might not be physical, but the bounce back might be spiritual, or it might be emotional, or it might be, and it can be all of those, right? So it's really important that we don't have this absolute idea that because you're doing all the right things, nothing ever goes wrong. This is life. Shit happens. The feedback is constant. It's continuous. It's like thinking, if you make $10 million, if you were living in your car and you had no money and you were really down and out, and then you were one of these rags to riches success stories, and you've got 10 million, if you've got $10 million, you can lose $10 million. Now, it may not happen, but it could. And if it does, it's how well do you bounce back from that? How well do you use what you've learned? So that's the one point. And I think our bounce back, the how quick the bounce back is a measure of your health and your level of awareness. And the second thing, I've now forgotten what that was. I had a second point. It's like, and the second thing is, I've forgotten what it is. If it comes to me later, maybe there's been an opportunity.
Let me bounce in and you will remember it, I'm sure.
Go.
I haven't got cancer, by the way, just in case people think I have. Well, right now I don't. But really, the scare also brought me to the point of what we teach is that, some amazingly evolved human beings die of cancer. They're conscious people. We all gonna die. We all know this. We've done the Fear Masterclass, How to Face Death. And so I really had to go through like, well, maybe not that I'm one of those really evolved people, but maybe I'm just gonna die. But anyway, so just sitting with that and everything we've taught, I had to practice. So I bounced back very fast from that. And then the intuition fired. And then I did something, and it was an energetic thing for me, really. But the reflection I want to make now, which is really important, when I look back on what I did wrong, is we have to see things coming. So that's why, and we have to stop it right in the beginning. Stop it, work with it. So that's why Loretta and I bang on and on and on about the unconscious, about bringing it into consciousness, about being self-aware enough to know your triggers, to observe your thought patterns, to work with your emotional state. And you can only do this if you're balanced, and that requires the daily practices we're going to bounce around today, as well as the nervous system regulation practices we've talked about and all the other tools we've brought. It's like where I went off track, I went off in a lot of ways. And if I had just caught them, and I did catch some of them, but our mind and our ego is very tricky, especially when you've had a lot of trauma like me in the past. It's going to try and drag you back down into the stuff that makes you feel unhappy and sick. And that is just the way the ego operates. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but it's a survival mechanism built into our brain that's meant to help us stay alive. And if we've had a lot of trauma, and even if we haven't, staying alive means being in control. It means, so I started doing weird self-sabotaging stuff and all that. And I was like, how come I'm doing this? I know all this stuff. And it's because I'd gone right to the bottom of the spiral. You do eventually get to the point where you pull the core wound, and then I was working with it and I was okay. And then it just, no, this is getting scary now because this chick's really changing. So we're just going to grab her by the shorties and we're going to drag her back down. And then if you're not strong in your nervous system and your food and your daily practice and all of that, then you don't realize what's going on until maybe it's too late and you stop sleeping because I was soothing with alcohol. Then I'm not sleeping. The lack of sleep. I mean, but anyway, So it's been a magnificent wake-up call for me yet again. Loretta's remembered her thing now.
I've remembered my number 2, okay? And what I want to point out here is that sometimes you actually can't find all the stuff on your own. So Antoinette said she took a step and she had whatever she did. Sometimes you need to ask someone else to help you. That's also okay.
And I mean,
that's what we do, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we get sick and then we go to a doctor, whichever doctor you want to choose. It can be a Western medicine doctor, it can be a Chinese medicine doctor, it can be a homeopath, doesn't matter. But you basically, when you don't know, because you're not necessarily a health expert, you go to somebody who knows something differently to you. Or sometimes you just go to someone to give you a different perspective. Because when you are, I still say to my clients, they think they're really deeply in the shit, right? So you're swimming in the sewer and I'm standing outside the sewer because I'm not in your sewer because I don't have your problem. I've got my own problem. So when it comes to your problem, I can tell you, goes like 7 steps to the left and then go 3 steps forward. And then there's a ladder. Start climbing up the ladder because I can see that because I'm looking at it from outside. When you're the person who feels like you're drowning in the poop, it's almost impossible to see the ladder. So sometimes, and I'm not advocating that for every little whatever, you've got to immediately go and get someone to help you. If that's what you feel you need to do, that's fine. But when we're in our own sewer, it doesn't matter how enlightened we are, how many exercises we've done, how much work we've done. It's very difficult to see your own stuff. And so sometimes you just need someone else to point it out to you and say, you know what, can I reflect the truth of what I see here? I see you swimming around and round and round and round in this pool of poop. And all you actually need to do is just go 5 paces further to the left. Just carry on going. There's a ladder there. And then when you get to the ladder, you might say, oh, but I'm too tired now. And the poop has made the ladder slippery. I'm like, well, dude, there's a ladder. Now you have a choice. You've either got to climb. You got to climb the first 3 rungs and then I can put my hand in and then I can get there and I can get you out. So it's really important that we know that we don't have to do all of this alone. And your intuition, when you're doing your tools, which is what I think happened with Antoinette. I mean, I'm just making an assumption now, but so Antoinette did the tools. She sat with it. She sat with the terror. She took out the stuff that she needed to do. And then her intuition, once she was doing that, once she was taking that action and working on regulating herself, her intuition fired and said, do this thing. And that's the thing that for her was the impetus that got her up the ladder. So it's important. We don't have to do this stuff all alone.
No, and in fact, we can't, Loretta. By the way, you're freezing quite a bit. And so if you can, I don't know if there's some other Wi-Fi you can switch to, or just while I'm talking, because you sometimes like freezing. So in my case now, the details don't matter, but it was an energetic issue. And that's why, even though I knew I was in the poo, in the sewer, and all the tools I've got, I couldn't drag myself out because there was an energetic thing going on with me, a big thing, very hectic. But because I started doing all the processes and practices that we put out, and I updated my will, like we teach that, and I hadn't frigging done it. I just started doing the practical stuff. I started saying goodbye to people that I really loved, found a home for my dog. I mean, all that stuff I teach and I hadn't done. And then, but I knew I was in trouble. I just couldn't drag myself out of the sewer. And if there's anyone who should be able to, it's me. And then, because I just started doing the steps, as you say, take the toolbox and just start doing something, my intuition went, this is the person you need help from. And she's far away, but I asked her for a session. She's a kinesiologist, but she can read auras and energy and look if there's any attachments. And it was all sorted out. When I say sorted out, I still have to do the work every day, but it was sorted out in an hour. So that's why every single thing we bring is of value. But as Loretta says, you can't do it all at once. But once you've got the knowledge and the suite of tools, even when you get deep down again, because it happens, that is the journey of healing, mentally and spiritually. Actually, you get back down in the trenches. Unless you're very, very vigilant about, Gary Ramsay always said, catch it before it comes. So it's coming. And that's many different things. It can be a thought or an emotion for me come up even before thoughts. It can be an energy. And you've got to be so self-aware and so nervous system regulated and eat the right food and get the sleep. And then you can go, it's happened to me since I got better. Now I'm like, oh no, I'm going down that path again. For me, it's self-doubt and it's judgment of other people. I'm just being honest about my stuff because I know I'm not the only person that has these thoughts. And I'm like, no. We're not going to, I've seen this, and now we're going to take out a tool or do whatever we want with it. And some of the stuff we're going to bring today is the stuff I had been forgetting to do or stopped doing because I'm like, I got busy and I thought I had it freaking taped, this journey. So, Loretta, should I kick into what we actually prepared for today? But I hope that was valuable because I think it's always my own journey. I know that my path to be of service is to help people through my own journey, which means I have to be vulnerable and honest. But yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, one last thing I just want to add about the journey is, certainly for me, what happens with my limiting belief is, you're not good enough or you should have controlled it better, is that there's like, we feel bad. We feel bad about admitting that we fucked it up. But the truth is that's not what we've done. It's just life. It just is what it is. It's part of the human experience. So we all, this is the sort of sense I get is that, so Antoinette, you're like, oh, well, yes, that's exactly how we feel when we admit it, right? And even that is part of our egoic thinking that we've always got to be on it somehow, right? Because as soon as we have an expectation that we have to be a certain way and we don't live up to that expectation, we are not giving ourselves what we think we want. And whenever you don't get what you want, your limiting beliefs are triggered. No matter how much you know them, no matter how comfortable you are with them, the truth is they're triggered. And that's all it is. It doesn't mean anything else. So if we can catch it at that point, then we don't have to go down the rabbit hole of what we've now made it mean about ourselves, right? And so I'm going to use you as an example, Antoinette. It's like, it's the facts and the fiction. The facts are, Antoinette had signs and symptoms. She had an examination, whatever happened. Okay. The facts are she had to go for a scan or there was a choice that she had to make. Those are the facts. Everything. And she had a scare. That's a fact because it was a possibility, right? But everything else that you would tell yourself about yourself is, I've heard this 1,000 times before. I should have caught it before it happened. That's basically all of that is I've just fucked it up. Okay. And that you've made, not you. I mean, I sound like I'm speaking to you specifically. I'm speaking to me and all of us is we can make it mean something about ourselves. When actually, it doesn't mean anything about you. You're the same person before this happened. The essence of who you are, right? You're the same person. I don't like you any less because, quite frankly, you're the same person now than what you did before all of this happened. In essence, the parts of you that I really like, it's the same. So it's part of the vigilance is, for me, what really works well is, okay, what's going, how do I feel? I feel unseen, or let's just say it's me. I've now messed up on my health. I'm not good enough. I'm useless. I'm just a lazy slob. Why haven't I been doing this? Oh my God, I'm absolutely, how could I possibly be doing this for a living? People pay me to give them this. Can you hear? This is all, I'm making it all mean something about me. When actually, that's the part, that's the fiction. That's actually the part we have to look at. So this is what it is. Does it mean anything about me? Well, not really. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you missed a couple of things, maybe. That's it. That's all. Because if we can see it that way, then we don't end up going down that rabbit hole of what it means about me, which is what a terrible person I am and how I've messed up.
Well, I think that that's exceptionally valuable because, as you know, and I've talked about, I think on the podcast, my shadow, my core fear is I'm going to die unloved and unfulfilled. So my biggest issue here wasn't dying, because I really don't have a problem with that, but I haven't written the book and I haven't done this, and so yeah, I've really messed up. And so what you're saying is right, but there's a but that I want to add. So you're right. I had to sit in that soup of, I've really messed up, and know that who I really am is okay with that, even if I die. But once I got through that and focused on the vision of what I wanted and I hadn't done, I had to also be realistic and self-aware and brave enough to say, well, Antoinette, you didn't write the book, and you could have. And you did miss that opportunity, because I have a very sneaky, very powerful self-saboteur. So if I keep on just saying it's all okay because who I really am is okay, I am never going to be able to work with that and change it. So it's both, Loretta. I think it's about self-compassionate inquiry. Yeah.
Right. I agree with you 100%. So I just want to use a different analogy, which might actually make what I was saying clearer. So imagine you're driving in a place that you don't know, and you've got the sat nav on, the GPS is on. Okay. This is what I'm saying. Antoinette is driving from Morgan Bay, where she lives, and she's trying to get to East London, which is where I live. And she is not vigilant, and she's not listening to the sat nav. She's turned the sound off when she's not watching where she's going, and she takes a wrong turn. That's the equivalent of you weren't vigilant, you missed what was going on, you maybe didn't do your practices, you weren't as committed, whatever. That's all I'm saying is it's the equivalent of that. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay for you to have taken the wrong road and then do nothing about it. But when you've taken the wrong off-ramp and the sat nav goes, sorry, you've got to make a U-turn, or recalculating to get you back on the right road, all right? That's taking so you could sit there, throw your hands up in despair and go, I'm such an awful person because I took the wrong off-ramp. Or you could say, I fucked it up. I wasn't vigilant. I wasn't looking. I took the wrong off-ramp. And now I'm not in East London. Now I'm in, I don't know, Mthatha. Okay, I've gone in the wrong direction completely. Sorry for those of you who don't live in South Africa. You don't even know what I'm talking about. But just trust me, you don't want to be going there, okay? Actually, right? It's like not one of the most salubrious places in South Africa. Yeah. So now you could sit there and go, oh my word, I'm such a terrible person. And now I'm in this awful place where I'm unsafe. And you can drive around and round and round and round and round this place that you don't want to be, lamenting and beating yourself up about how you got here. Or you could go, I took the wrong road. I'm not where I want to be. Shit stakes. You turn the sound back on the sat nav. You let the lady tell you what to recalculate, you get her to recalculate, and then she's going to tell you where to go. That's taking the responsibility and going, well, you know what, I can either beat myself up about how I got here for the next 20 years, or I can just turn on the GPS and I can actually find the right road and I can get the hell out of here to where it is that I want to go. Okay. So that's what I mean by, it doesn't mean anything about you. And the quicker you get, I've taken the wrong road, when you acknowledge I've taken the wrong road and this is what happened because I took my eye off, shouldn't have turned the damn sat nav's voice off. I wasn't vigilant. I wasn't doing my exercises. I wasn't doing my daily practice. When you get that, now you realize, okay, this is how I got here. You take responsibility for that. And then you choose to get the hell out of that. Because if you don't, you end up driving around this place you don't want to be. You could drive around in that place for so long, and then what happens is you run out of fuel. You're in a dangerous place. You're a woman on your own. This particular place I'm talking about in South Africa is not safe if this happens to you. And then someone comes and hijacks your car and they kidnap you and they kill you.
Yeah.
because
So Loretta,
you,
really, that was actually what I was saying, because if I had stayed in that space, because I can be brutal on myself, as you know, of how badly I messed up. And that's the very thing that got me to this place. I think I would have actually maybe died, even, to be honest, because it was so brutal. But like you teach, I had to sit with that, and I had to hear that loud critical voice, which is one of my main unconscious programmings and self-sabotage, and go, no, I have to do a U-turn now. And I did a very sharp U-turn, and I did my will the very next day, even though I was feeling sick. And I just started doing things differently. And I was like, well, thank you, body. That's why we keep on saying symptoms are an opportunity. It's not the end of the world. Yes, I might have died of cancer, but I got to a point also where if I had the cancer, I actually felt completely peaceful with it, and I would have made Loretta do what I hadn't done my whole life. So everything we're bringing to you, you can really take seriously, because we are perfect. Who we really are is perfect, but our unconscious stuff trips us up, and that's when we have to be aware and vigilant and do the U-turn. So yeah.
100%. I think, if I may interject here, I think what we want to do is let's go to, I can't remember what else we had on our schedule. I know, Antoinette actually prepared this episode really well. I think if we can maybe go on to, like, what are the things in the toolbox? What do people do with this? Rather than doing more theory, because I think our discussion has really highlighted it. Let's go to, okay, so what else can you do? So let's just do, it's the festive season. There are lots of relationship dynamics that are out at the moment, right? Okay. There's always that one family member that's going to push your button. It's all supposed to be about love and family and connection. And it's very often doesn't always turn out like that. So I think this is a good time for us to have some really simple, easy tools that we can use, or maybe some of the things that you noticed in your journey that you stopped doing that you found really valuable, so that we can maybe we discuss those, and that's how we sort of wrap this up.
That's exactly what I was going to say. We are like so in sync. So do you want to kick off, or should I?
No, I think you do. You kick off, because you got the notes. I'm the one who's winging it on the side.
Yeah, please. I just want to say before I do that, I agree with you. We're going to go straight into some tools and what I didn't do, and I will be doing from now on. Believe me. Go back to episode 3, please. Because in episode 3, I talk about the hidden stress, the things that affect our health that we don't see as stresses, the fear, the self-doubt, the low self-worth, not being able to say no, not drawing boundaries in relationships, all this emotional stuff that goes down at Christmas and in families. And so please go back to that episode. It's important to know that stuff before you go to the Christmas lunch, actually, because those things very much inform our health, because we've been conditioned to operate with this hidden stress without even knowing it. And that's because of this uncertainty, lack of information, and lack of control, loss of control. That's the thing that unconsciously freaks us out and makes us do all this weird thing like people pleasing and codependency. And Gabor Mate has proved, with all his hundreds and probably at more than 1,000 clients that he's helped on this journey, he says, that is what is present in every single one of his patients with chronic illness. So we're going to keep on batting on about it. So for now, go back to episode 4, episode 10, episode 3, all those episodes where we've actually outlined the whole journey, actually, and let's go straight into tools. So this is what I stopped doing, and I wasn't doing. I did it vigilantly during cancer and for 3 years afterwards, and then anyway. The thing is, what I realized looking back now on these past few weeks and actually a year, is that I didn't keep myself energetically coherent. So that episode that Loretta did on energetics and everything she brings is absolutely critical. the most profound relationship is with ourselves and our own consciousness. And there's so much love and light stuff out there and so much mind body stuff out there, but so much of it doesn't hit the crux, sorry to say. It skates the surface, and it can make it all even more dangerous, actually, because actually evolution doesn't happen in comfort zones. We've been tricked into the fact that it's a quick fix, and it's not. The price for a healthy life, mentally, physically, and spiritually, is actually discomfort. And that's why Loretta and I are teaching you how to navigate that. And I'm a living example. I feel better today than I have in 63 years. But boy, so I experience a lot of discomfort. And it requires commitment and daily practice and consistency, because it's simple and not easy. So this is what I stopped doing, and I'm going to do every day. And Loretta can share what she does.
Can I just before you kick off? Sorry, I just want to interrupt you. Can I just say one thing about this? Sorry. Is that just because you've uncovered your unconscious and we've exposed the shadow and we did it doesn't mean like some little switch comes on and that makes all of this easy. It requires will. It does require will.
Yes.
So it's really important that you ask yourself, what do I really want? Like, what would I love? All right. And then what am I prepared to do in order to get it? Because you can have a beautiful vision. You can be connected to your spirit. Your intuition can be sending you messages 24/7. If you don't use your will to take the action, my friends, it's just a dream. It's not real.
Yes, that was well said, Loretta. Go back and listen to that 3 times, because I can tell you now, no amount of gratitude journals or yoga or even meditation is going to get you there if you're using it to bypass doing the
100%.
work, which Nicola Perez had the courage to actually call it work. Whereas everybody out there is going, oh, no, you don't have to do any work. It's a journey. Even I use the word journey, but it actually requires a commitment to do this with your life. And it requires doing the stuff every moment of every day. It doesn't mean we don't just carry on with life as normal, but yeah. So thank you, Loretta.
And
so
it also
for
doesn't
me,
mean, sorry. It also doesn't mean you have to. It's like it also means you have to hate every minute of every day. It doesn't mean that everything has to be like serious and hard. So as Antoinette goes into the tools, you'll see it's not about that. It's because when we go like when you go after work every day, I'm like, oh, when am I going to have time for leisure and resting? It's that the more you're aware of this, the more you can actually step into your true nature, which may well be peaceful or blissful or joyful or whatever the case may be. But you can't access that if you're not getting real and if you're not actually taking the action. God helps those who help themselves. That's why that's a cliche. It's because it's the truth.
True. It's true. Well said.
Take the action. Okay, I am going to keep quiet now. Go, Antoinette. I'm not going to.
No, please don't keep quiet. We're good together. So the tools we're going to bring today are the very things, if you do them vigilantly, will bring you to the bliss. I promise you, and the peace, and the calm, and the rest, and the centeredness, and the. But it goes together with the other stuff. The trigger work and the unconscious stuff. So, but if you don't do this stuff every day, it's very hard to do the other stuff. And if you do this stuff in a bypassy way, it also doesn't really make a difference. So let me just get on with it. I think that for me, one of the things I stopped doing, and I'm going to do it every day of my life, no matter how good I feel, is a morning routine, a daily practice. Every morning, the very first thing when I wake up in the morning, before I switch my phone on, before I do anything else, and I promised myself post-cancer I would never stop doing that, and I did. Started getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to work, etc. So sometimes I still get up at 4 to work because I'm at my best, but then I wake up at 3:30, and I do, for me, the things that work, because they can take me from worry, aches and pains, into my body feeling good most of the time, my mind feeling calm, and my spirit firing. And then I can face the day and anything. And I do this a visualization. You can call it a meditation, a visualization, whatever language you want to use. It's a body scan, actually. So I start in my brain. I use golden sparkles because they have a really amazing energy for me. And I go through every single part of my body. All my organs, my bones, everything. And I infuse into those golden sparkles whatever I feel my body needs. And I connect with my body. Do you know, so I did a whole episode on this, episode 14, to be an embodied spiritual being is the only way we stay healthy physically and mentally. So I stopped doing this body scan because I'm like, I'm not sick anymore. And now I want to be more spiritual. I'm like, this is the very thing that is the spiritual task, actually, I feel. So I do that, connection with my body and body scan. I do a future life visualization. I also stopped doing that. And that can be a few minutes, just like, how do I want to feel every day? How do I want to be living? Just bring in, and I'm not good at breathing, but Loretta will take you through that because I know breathing's powerful, but I'm not good at it. It's just something I've never done. But I try and connect with my heart. I put my hand on my heart and then on my solar plexus, and I just visualize into my heart space for a couple of minutes. It says 7, but you can even do a few minutes just to try and bring my heart in alignment with my head, because my head runs my show, to just bring in the feelings of joy and peace. And those are hard to invoke in the beginning. You tell me. I was like, people told me, oh, you just have to bring in the feeling of joy. I'm like, are you kidding me? I couldn't do that for months when I first started, but you just got to do it. Fake it till you make it. And eventually you literally can drop in to the word joy when you're in this kind of meditative state, and you can feel that joy. And I listened to a Joe Dispenza clip lately, and actually he said something that really resonated, which I knew, is that this actually helps rewire the brain, because the brain is actually wired to be in this fight and flight and this survival. And when we deliberately spend time feeling these feelings, even if we are sick or our life's falling apart, the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. So this really creates that kind of energetic coherence, and it connects us to our body. So I do that, and now I do static back every morning because my nervous system tends to go dysregulated very fast, and this is a very easy, quick, comfortable way for me to get it back. And then during the day, this thing I stopped doing was this absolute moment by moment compassionate self-awareness. It's not about judging yourself or beating yourself up, but it's about eating your food when you eat, not splitting your focus, about being able to observe the thoughts running through your head. Stop and feel what you're feeling, because I can be very irritable and reactive, and I've been letting that go without taking the pause. And then when you don't take the pause, the next thing you're falling over the dog while you're trying to boil your egg, and you're on the phone, and then static back, and then it saves me for a bit. But actually, I'm going back to that moment by moment compassionate self-awareness. And if I'm freaking out or there's this weird emotion, then I go, well, what's actually happening here? Because usually not much is happening, and then I can change it. So those are the two things that I think are very, very important. And then the other things I stopped doing, and I know Loretta can talk to this in her own life, is just stop and take a pause a few times a day, because we all busy people. Just set your alarm for 3 times a day, because I just forget. And just stop. Do something deliberate. Go outside and lie on the lawn. Look at a flower, do some breathing. I don't know. For me, I sometimes eat, but that's not a very good pause. But sometimes it just gets me out of now I only keep healthy food in my house, so I can't go and eat cake. But anyway, and Loretta thinks that people know this, and we all know it, but you can't take for granted that you must move your body. You must spend time in nature. You have to eat healthy, clean food at least 80% of the time, and you need to sleep. And the last thing I want to say is make your home, whether it's a tiny room or a mansion, into an energy incubator. Get rid of the clutter. Only have things you love. Have things that create a high vibration for you. I think for me, there's so many more things, but those are simple things that actually make you feel really good. Actually.
I want to speak to the simplicity because, this is another trick of the ego. The ego says, if it's not hard and complicated, my ego definitely does this. If it's too simple, it's so when Antoinette told me about static back, I don't know, maybe a year ago, maybe longer. And I'm like, yeah, static schmatic. So I did it a few times. I was like, oh, this is great. But, I do my other meditation, blah, 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 blah. And then I don't actually know. I actually realized how dysregulated my nervous system is. And I think my back was actually sore. And so I decided, no, I don't know. I just said, I'm going to tack this on at the end of when I've done my usual, I've got a little bench, I'll put a pillow on it. I'm just going to lie there. I'm going to put some music on and I'm going to just do static back. And so I did it a few times and my backache went away, right? And now I'm in a routine. So can be very rigid. I can be very rigid. But, one of the beauties of that is I can be very structured. So like when I find something that works, I could eat the same thing every day if I really liked it, for example. Not necessarily good for you, but I could do that, right? I'm okay with that. Anyway, started doing the static back. And not only does it regulate my nervous system, but I've had a shoulder injury for about 2.5 months. And I've done lots of things to sort it out. And I've tried to work out what it means psychologically, and blah, blah, took my own advice. And you know what, 3 weeks of static back. And my shoulder it's not 100%, but it's so close to 100%. I cannot even tell you. Cannot even begin to tell you. So, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to do static back is because it's so simple. What am I doing? I was just lying there. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because your ego is first, the one thing your ego is going to go, there's too much. I can't do it all. This is too complicated. I can't do it. That's its one version. And the other one is, this is too simple. This is never going to work. So basically you're screwed. And this is where the vigilance comes in. And this is where you have to use your will and go, you know what? So what I do now is I go, well, you know what? I'm going to see this as an experiment. Instead of going, I'm going to do static back in order for me to be blah, blah, blah. Because now I've got this idea of that's very egoic, I'm like, I'm going to do an experiment and I'm going to commit to doing static back every single day for 3 weeks. And at the end of 3 weeks, I don't feel any different. I'm going to go, okay, well, that's not a tool that works for me right now. So that's the one thing I want to tell you. Don't overcomplicate it. You can hear, and another thing that your ego goes, oh yeah, I know this. Antoinette has said that, you want to be joyful and take the pause. And yeah, we know this. Okay, well, you know what? Brendan Burchard says, common sense is not often common practice. So knowing it and not doing it because you think you know it all is the same as visioning it and imagining it and not taking any action. Fuck all is going to happen. I'm sorry that I had to drop an F-bomb. I think this might be my first one so far. I swear like a trooper generally.
Yeah.
But not going to happen, my friends. Okay. So you don't know it all. And until you've actually tried it, you don't know whether it's going to work or not. And it doesn't have to be complicated. But it does have to be done. So don't let your ego trap you into too complicated, not complicated enough. I know all this. Well, if you know all this and you're not in a good place, then what you know is not serving you. So maybe you want to try and have that open mind. Okay, so that's what I did with static back. I was like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? I'm going to lie here for 20 minutes, relaxing. Honestly, that was my thought on static back. I'm going to lie here for 20 minutes, relaxing and doing belly breathing. How bad can it be? The worst thing that can happen is my vagus nerve is going to be activated in a good way. I'm going to be more relaxed. So try and have that. It's called like the mind of the student or whatever it is. I don't know. There's a term for it. There is like a new agey term for the kind of mind you want to have. Okay, that's the one thing. The other thing I want to tell you is your body loves rhythm. You might not be rigid like me and you might not be as structured as me, but your body, everyone's body loves rhythm. Look at nature. There's only rhythm in nature. Birds don't decide halfway through winter they're going to change into their summer plumage and build a nest and have babies. That's not how it works. The birds that have babies in winter, like there's sunbirds, interestingly enough, in South Africa that have they only nest in winter because that's when they eat spiders and that's when there's more food. how fascinating. Okay, but generally, there's a rhythm, right? Shit happens in spring, stuff happens in summer, stuff happens in winter. There's a rhythm in nature, and we are part of nature. So we are rhythmic creatures.
Yes.
And so when we have a rhythm, if you wake up at the same time more or less every day, if you go to sleep at the same time more or less every night, if you have even if you've only got one thing that you do consistently, you start creating the rhythm. So if you set your alarm for 3 times in the day, that it's going to go off and remind you to just take a pause, couple of deep breaths into your belly, turn on some music, bop around in your study. That's my new one. Okay, so I've decided this is what I'm going to do now. When I have a break between activities, like when I finished here with Antoinette, I've got a gap between the recording and a client. I have a fun playlist. I turn on one of the fun songs. Sometimes it's a Disney number, sometimes it's something else. And no matter how much I don't feel like listening to it or how much I don't feel like moving, I am actually going to, even if all I'm going to do is just like sway from side to side. And I want to tell you, the stuff I've got on my playlist is the stuff that you can't listen to and be miserable. You can't. That's why I made it a fun playlist. So music works for me. But I never listen to music in the day unless I make it. So rhythm. Your body wants
dancing, yeah. Just move, dance a bit. Yeah.
Right. So music has rhythm. Dancing is rhythmic. Who's going to see you? No one is here in my study. No one cares what I look like. No one cares whether my playlist suits them or not. I can sing the theme song from Aladdin if it makes me happy today. Okay, so don't overcomplicate it. If you haven't tried it, don't knock it, because you actually are not entitled to an opinion as to whether it works or not. Sorry. And there's always going to be something called, Huberman calls it limbic friction. Limbic friction is, I really want to get fit. Oh, but exercise is really hard. Limbic friction is overcoming the exercise is really hard and actually just having the workout. So it does take will. It does take will. You're going to have to face that. There is no magic elixir. There is no wonderful supplement that's just going to heal you. There's no one of these tools that suddenly blows your mind and then you never have to do anything else again. So it takes a bit of will. And this is a festive season. So in theory, we're not all going to be working like nobody's business. And yes, there's going to be a lot of family around, but you know what? There's nothing that stops you from just taking a pause, going into the bathroom if you have to, and breathing for 5 minutes. Nothing. So, and every time you take one of these actions, this is the other thing. I'm going to be quiet. Every time you take an action, no matter what it is, whether it's making your will like Antoinette did, or finding a home for her dog, right? Even though now she doesn't need that, that's fine. Every time you take an action, you are reinforcing to your subconscious that you care about yourself, that you are committed to your goal, and that you are taking action. And that is the important wiring of your brain. So it's, I'm almost going to say it's more important than the action. But you need the action to send the message to your subconscious. Do you see what I'm saying? So whether you want to send golden sparkles and do the body scan, or whether you want to do the future, your future life vision, both of which I think are amazing, or you want to do static back, by the way, you can lie there doing static back and do your body scan and your future life vision all in 20 minutes. 3 in 1. I mean, honestly, how much simpler than that can it get, right? 20 minutes, it's going to take 20 minutes out of your day. That's it. So, but every time you do that, every time you take one of those actions, every time I turn the music on, what I'm saying to my subconscious is I'm choosing joy today. No matter what the problem is, no matter how I feel, I'm choosing in this moment to just feel joyful. And when I'm done with that and something else happens and I'm no longer joyful, that's okay. It doesn't mean anything about me. It just means that if nothing else, I have given myself the gift of a bit of joy for 5 minutes at a time, 3 times today. Try it.
And it's incredible. So look, this is not to take away anything we've said before. We've had some very heavy episodes about facing your unconscious, feeling your feelings, and all of that has to be done. But really, it took me getting down to the wire again to realize these practices are important as long as you're not using them to bypass, because you don't have to be happy all the time. And you do have to feel the difficult feelings, but you have to do this stuff as well. And I realized, because my back was really against the wall this time, if I potentially had this cancer, I realized how fast I could feel that fear, but switch it to the opposite. And Loretta's absolutely right. The thing that really started turning it around is I sat down and wrote my will, and the resistance I had to that, I have no idea why. I'm a single person. It doesn't matter what I do with my money, and I don't even have much, but the resistance, and that's where Loretta talks often about resistance. When the resistance comes up, you must know it's the very thing you need to do, because your ego is going, oh, we're not doing that. And doing a will seemed like such an arbitrary, like it's not spiritual, it's so practical. Let me go and meditate. And I'm like, no, the resistance is so big. I sat down in my chair and I just started. And I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. But as soon as I started, it just happened fast. And finding a home for my dog, I thought was going to be a massive task. And it all happened in a nanosecond as soon as I knew I needed to do that. But and so we need to do both. I've avoided putting out these kind of things by and large, because I used them. I didn't do the golden sparkle or future life visualization, but I used gratitude journaling and meditation, all that, to bypass all the other stuff. But it's actually both. And the thing to say to end, we need help and we need to pay for it. But there's a lot of things that are free, and everybody out there is trying to sell you something. So once again, it's both. And as that amazing Sharon Bradfield said in her interview, you've got to know who to choose if you're going to pay someone to help you.
100%.
So your intuition has to fire on that. Do your research, because everybody out there is trying to sell you something, and it's going to fix you and make you better. So until you're sure about which person to choose, just go and do all these free things. Am I right, Loretta?
Thanks so much.
Anyway.
Thank you for listening.
Should we wrap it up? And next year, this is our last episode, by the way, for the year. Today is the 10th of December.
11th.
And Loretta and I are going to take a break till the second week of January, because it's our holiday season here in South Africa. But we're going to be back with some really amazing stuff in January. We've already got a lot of episodes planned. We're very excited. We're going to take our podcast to the whole next level. So if you can just go back and listen to all the episodes, do some of the practices if they feel right. And Loretta's on email, and so am I. And if you need some good help, I can recommend Loretta, not because I get anything out of it, but because it's just a fact, but only if it resonates. Okay. So thank you for listening, and please share, because there might be one sentence in here that will help somebody. So share it straight away. And thank you, Loretta, for riding this recent wave with me, because it wasn't always easy.
It's always my pleasure and my honor. And thank you for being a great teacher. I learn a lot of stuff from you.
Bless you. Thank you. We're good together, and that's great. So goodbye, everybody. Have a blessed season. And if it's not so blessed, dive into some of the tools. I'm going home to my family, so I'm going to need my whole toolbox with me. I'm taking a big bag.
If it's not so blessed and you end up in the new year more frazzled than the old year, I'm sure we can help you with that. Bye.
Awesome. Bye. Bye. Thanks, Loretta.
Thank you.